Now, this is a story of the camaraderie of comedians, and we sort of do gigs together, and we become friends. And a comic named Mark Schiff and I were friends for a long time, and still are friends. And Mark calls me up one time. He said, "I got this gig up in Solvang, and it's going to be up at President Reagan's ranch." Now, this is the late '80s, so George Bush, the first George Bush, was president. I said, "Okay." He said, "Would you come with me? You want to come with me?" I said, "No, I'm not doing anything. I'll go with you." So we drive up to Solvang. They meet us in town, and the guy says, "You guys aren't dressed properly." And he had a Jeep there, an Army Jeep, like a Humvee or whatever it was. And in the back, he had all these Western clothes. He said, "You guys pick out what fits you and get dressed in Western gear." So we get dressed in Western gear, and he drives us up to this ranch, and we pass military guards, and we know we're coming into something area, and we get into this ranch, and it's sort of one of those retreat weekends, and all the movers and shakers of the country there, the head of the Marine Corps, the head of AT&T, all these big people, and they're playing cowboy for the weekend. And they have these little campsites, and they have all their guys around. Everybody's dressed like cowboys. There are horses everywhere. And he says, "Mark, you guys just find out whatever you want to eat. Go ahead and eat it." I walk over, this guy's cooking lobster on an open grill. I said, "I'll take lobster." I just start eating lobster, and Mark is sitting there with me, and he's going to perform, so he's not eating it. And I'm in my third lobster tail. And the guy comes and sits down, the booker, and says, "Mark, I saw your tape. You're a very funny guy, but you can see the situation here. And just don't do anything about being Jewish or from New York City." And I put down my fork and realized this is not going to go well. He just put a red flag in front of the ball. I knew that moment there was a chance of me performing, because Mark was going to open with being Jewish and from New York City. So the performance starts at night, and it's in an open air thing. I don't know what you call these things, but it's a roof with just 4 columns, and there was a big fireplace, a wall, and an oil painting of Ronald Reagan above the fireplace, a kind of fireplace you could actually walk into, big stone. That was the wall. And then there was a microphone and a sound system, and then all these metal chairs on cement, and then around it were guys standing, and then guys around them on horses watching. That's what the audience was. So the first performer was a ventriloquist. He did every possible ventriloquist dick joke there was, you know. I come sawdust, you know, every kind of ventriloquist joke there was, dirty or whatever, and he's killing. And then they introduce Mark, and he goes up, "I'm from New York City," and he does a subway joke, and then he does a Jewish joke and a subway joke, and you start hearing metal chairs grinding around, you know. And it gets real quiet real fast, and Mark goes, "Listen, I got a friend of mine up here. You're going to love him. Very funny guy." We had not said a word about it. And he introduces me. Now, you know, I come up and I just start doing, I had like a lot of men-women relationship stuff and wife stuff, and I just started cranking. It was all men, so I just crank it up, the wife thing, just kind of give it a little spin attitude. "My wife," and and I kill, and I do this, you know, cowboy goyim stuff that I do. And I kill, and I come out the thing, and Mark comes off, and we go in the behind the place, and there's a Jeep there to take us down, and the booker comes over, he starts yelling at Mark, "You didn't do anything. He did the whole show. I'm not paying you." And Mark says, "We work together." That's how we do it sometimes. Sometimes one guy does okay, he finishes shows, sometimes the other guy has to finish the show. We work as a team that way. And he goes, "That's bullshit." Mark goes, "Rich is a bullshit." I go, "This is how we do it. That's why we do it. We always bring backup. You never know what's going to happen, you know." He gives Mark the check, and we drove off, and Mark goes, "What do you want?" I said, "Nothing." "Fantastic."